Welcome to the second part of my response to the recent ContraPoints video titled Gender Critical, in which she addressed some of gender critical feminism's talking points about the trans community. I guess one important point that Natalie did sort of touch on, but in my opinion did not quite address convincingly, was the question of, are trans women women? Natalie said that she sees herself as currently a woman but used to be a man, and if I understand it correctly, this is based on a performative view of gender, one that is rooted in the kind of gender analysis found in the works of Judith Butler. But in fact, the vast majority of people in this world would find this view of gender absurd or even offensive. On one side of the debate are the vast majority of trans people who clearly don't share Natalie's point of view. I have always been a woman. I have never been a man. I have never identified as such, even if I was forced by others to present as such. To suggest that trans women used to be men is offensive. I am so disappointed. Natalie doesn't speak for us. We also have, on the other end of the spectrum, the gender critical feminists themselves who believe that trans women are men and will always be men. And then you can also say that both the GCF view and the most common trans view are at least consistent because human beings cannot change their sex. And let's face it, gender is strongly related to sex. You are either always male or you're always a female, or else these terms become confusing and dysfunctional. Let me give you an example. If gender is only performative, then a drag queen would be a woman when he is in drag, only to become a man again when his performance is over. Defining gender this way would only cause chaos for society. This renders, in my humble opinion, Natalie's view of gender basically invalid. But between the two views I consider logical, namely that of the trans woman saying that she was always a woman, and that of the GCF saying that trans women are men, which one is the more valid one? From my point of view, it is basically a matter of semantics, a matter of language. Objective reality is absolute, but how people use language is not. The objective reality is that trans women are not the same as biological women, nor are they the same as what we typically consider a man, but how language reflects this reality is another matter. According to opinion polls, there are a substantial number of people who would say that trans people are their birth gender, and there are also a lesser but still substantial number of people who would say that trans people are the gender they identify as. Furthermore, both sides are very strong in their conviction, and neither is going to back down anytime soon. Like all semantic debates, short of limiting the free speech of one side, there is no end in sight to the debate. Furthermore, it is not uncommon for different communities to have different definitions for the same word. For example, a biscuit is a completely different thing in Alabama versus in England. Therefore, as a moral libertarian who strongly supports free speech, all I have to say on this matter is people are free to use the words in whatever way they like, and I have no problems with it either way. One reason I am not interested in semantic debates is because it needlessly divides people and takes us further away from the discussions we need to have to accommodate the needs of people on every side of the matter. It is a fact that trans women are different from genetic women, but it is also a fact that people with gender dysphoria deserve reasonable accommodation in a society that otherwise values compassion and equal opportunity for all. While the activists' recent debates have focused on issues that put trans rights in conflict with other parties' concerns, I think there is a rational middle ground to resolve all those concerns, as I have discussed in a previous video. The key to having constructive discussions is to put our linguistic differences aside and focus on the reality. After all, even if you believe trans women are women, you can still acknowledge that many straight men and lesbians aren't going to be attracted to trans women. And even if you believe trans women are men, it is still cruel and unreasonable to let them face social punishment and discrimination for not behaving like men. While language may divide us, the underlying reality is basically the same, and it is on the common reality that we need to find common ground and mutually acceptable solutions. That's all for this installment. I will have even more to say on the gender critical video as well as other ContraPoints trans stuff later on.